Alright, so changing the transmission filter on your GMC Sierra, Chevy Silverado. This is going to be pretty much the same process for all the trucks, almost all the year models. There'll be a little few differences here and there, but this specific truck's going to be a '08-ish. So this, I'm pretty sure, will be the same for like 2001-ish, 2002-ish, up to 2012 or 13 maybe. Anyways, what do we need to do this job? That's probably what you're asking. You're going to want to get some transmission fluid. I believe this is going to take around 5 quarts. It's been a while since I've done one. If that's what we're going to go with. You're going to want a transmission filter to replace, pan gasket, some brake cleaner to clean some junk up with. It's been a long day, a Red Bull, some gloves. We're going to be using a 1/2 inch socket on an extension, and then a T40, I believe. Yeah, T40. And then, of course, our handy dandy gasket scraper to remove the gasket stuff. So, with that being said, you also want a drain pan and all that good stuff to clean up your mess you're going to make. Go ahead and set aside, once the vehicle's up in the air, once you've got to where you can get to it, probably 30 to 45 minutes to do this job, just depending on how comfortable you are. I feel like you should be able to do it in that amount of time. So now the next question, you know what you need. Make sure you get the correct fluid. What filter will you need? That's going to be the next question, because there are going to be different options. And on this specific truck, there's two options. There's one for a shallow pan and a deep pan. One of them's, they're both going to be 13 bolt, I believe. So the pan's the same shape. Let me show you how you know what is what. So when we're underneath our truck looking at it, this is obviously going to be our transmission pan. If you look back here at the back, ours has got a step in it. So this should be the deep pan. If it's just a smooth bottom without this step down right here, it should be the shallow pan. If my memory recalls correctly, that's what we're going for. We'll know for sure once we get it off. So we'll get a drain pan ready and get started taking all this junk loose. You find people will look on the driver's side of your transmission. On this specific truck, you're going to have your shifter linkage here. Now, your bracket right here is up against your pan, so we're going to need to remove this to be able to drop that pan down. Now, this is where your T40 Torx bit comes in hand. There's 2 bolts on the top side. Let's take a look at them. Doing my best to get you fine people a shot here. So there's a T40 right there, and you can see the other one at the end of this bracket. What we're going to attempt to do is take these 2 bolts out and just allow this bracket to kind of lay over out of our way. I believe it's going to give us enough room. We won't have to unhook the linkage itself. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and we'll see how that works out for us. That worked out pretty nice for us. So now we've got our shift linkage moved over out of the way, and you can see the bracket. It just sits up in there like that. Unbolt it, move her down out of your way so you can get to the bolts, and we'll have enough room to bring this pan down. The other problem we may run into is going to be the heat shield on this side. Let's take a gander at it. Here is our heat shield right here. I believe it's got some 10mm bolts holding it on, but I think we can get by without messing with it, so we'll see. So we're going to get our drain pan up in here. You're going to make sure your exhaust is cool to the touch. Make sure your truck is cooled down enough that you can safely work on it without having to go to the hospital for burns. So let's get our drain pan set up to catch some fluid, and I will show you the special funnel I use. There's my high dollar funnel. It's messy, it's been outside. These will make your life easier, but if you're only doing this job one time, you're probably not going to want to buy this. When I bought this, I think it was 20 or 30 bucks. But if you're all the time draining your own oil or doing your own work, I highly invest getting one of these and getting some mesh, excuse me, to go in it to catch any debris that falls. If you don't have one of these and all you've got is a regular drain pan, remember we're going to be draining roughly 5-ish quarts out, so make sure your drain pan is bigger than that. I'm going to show you how to take this pan loose to make the smallest amount of mess possible. Still going to have mess, but it'll be alright. So now that we've got that out of the way, we can get everything set up, and let's start taking some bolts out. Some people are going to argue with me about this in the comments, which is fine. What I'm going to do is go around to each corner, go ahead and take one of these bolts loose, and then run it back up on there. Hand tight, pretty much. That's going to save us some trouble in the future. Now, once we've got all 4 corner bolts loose, it's not exactly the proper procedure. Maybe it is. I guess I'll never know. We're going to go around and we're going to take all these bolts out, but we're going to leave our 4 corner bolts. That way that leaves us with 4 bolts to deal with, and we don't have a bunch of fluid spilling on us while we're taking them all out. That will make your life a lot easier. So let's go ahead and do that. So the light died. How to fix that? With all of our bolts loose except our 4 corners, we're gonna go ahead and lift our drain pan up a little bit. It's not able to be seen by y'all at the moment, but it is there, I promise you. We're going to bring the front of this pan down first. Now, don't have your drain pan lined up straight even with this pan, because when you tilt this down, fluid's going to run out this way. So we're going to take our 2 front bolts and we're going to loosen them till there's a gap about that much. We're not going to take them all the way out. And what that's going to do is allow us to loosen the back ones and allow this front to drop without it all coming at one time, making our lives miserable. So see if we can do this without getting too messy. And I like to run them out until they pretty much fall out, and then I'll put them back in a few turns. That way I can get the maximum amount of fluid to drain. It's gonna be pretty close. So let me see if y'all can see that on camera. Yeah, you can kind of see how much they're out. Now we're gonna go to the back and slowly start just loosen them just a little bit, and our pan should tilt, start draining. Loosen that one. Come over here on this passenger side one. Loosen it. Now, with it draining like that, you can either let that sit for a while draining like that, or you can give it a little bit of a pull on the front of your pan. You don't want to distort the pan. I don't want to get messy, so I'm going to use a screwdriver. Don't really want to pry the pan if you don't have to. Just give it a light little tug, because we don't want to distort it. That's usually all it takes. It's just a little bit. So then we'll come over here to this side, give her a little bit more, just like that. So what this is doing is allowing all your fluid to run out this end. Now, with that being done, pretty much all that's wanting to run out has run out. So we're going to go ahead and take these bolts out of the front and try not to cover everything with transmission fluid. Just drop them down in there since we got that catch. Get this rag over here out of our way. Now we're going to see how far this pan wants to come down. Right there. So now, got our front bolts all the way out. We'll go to the back, start easing them out. We're going to want to hold the pan up as we take the rear ones out. Alright, so with all 4 of them out, We're going to attempt to ease front of this pan down. Again, we're going to let it drain for a minute. Easing it out, and we're just gonna let that back drain into our pan, our catch pan. Should have got y'all a better shot of that, but maybe you could tell. And there she is. So take all your bolts out, let your pan tilt forward, drain as much as it can, and then you're gonna try to hold it level and just pull it forward. You have just enough room to get that pan out with the exhaust bin in the way. And then we just dumped it. So let's take a look at our pan and see what we got to do with it. Change my mind. Before we look at the pan, we're going to look at cleaning our mating surface on the bottom of this transmission. This one's pretty clean. That's where this carbide tip scraper comes in handy. They're really good about cleaning surfaces without damaging them as long as you use them properly. So what we'll do out of frame is just run this across that whole bottom side to make sure there's nothing there. And our main thing right now is we want to go ahead and remove this transmission filter. So to remove it, we're just going to kind of pull it down. I believe this is just one of the press fit ones. Now when you pull it down, you'll probably get some more transmission fluid. So just kind of be prepared for that if that is your scenario. I'm trying to just ease it down so it don't just slam out. Yeah. And there it is. So with your filter out, your mating surface on the bottom of the transmission cleaned real well. You want to go ahead and just, I like to hit everything with brake clean and a rag to get it nice, dry, and clean. You don't have to worry about on your valve body area right here. The main thing you're worrying about is just the outer sides. So now we'll take a look at our transmission pan and see what we've got to do to it. But when you're looking at your transmission pan, hopefully you're as lucky as this one is, because most of our gasket is going to pull off. I said that, I may be lying to you. But if you get lucky, most of your gasket will pull off, as long as it's not siliconed on or baked too badly. Now, you've got magnets in here. Catch your material. You're going to have stuff on these magnets. If your vehicle's not brand new, you're going to have stuff. As long as they're not double their size, you might be alright. But what I do, I can get y'all, I just clean them with a rag. You can clean these things with brake cleaner for 3 months, and you'll keep getting stuff off of them. So I just take a rag, wipe as much of that junk off as you can. So that's what we'll do with all of these. And then we'll take our pan over to our parts washer. Once we get the rest of that gasket off, again, we'll use our scraper and see if it will remove it. Now, with these carbide scrapers, You want to keep them flat as you can, and don't really put much pressure, if any. Let's see if we can tear this up. Probably need to move this to my workbench. So the carbide scraper is not wanting to go under it. If you run into that, let me get a razor blade and we'll try a razor blade, because sometimes if you can get right up under that gasket, it'll just pop right loose. We'll try this real time with you guys, just because I don't want y'all to feel like I'm lying to you. See, just like that. A lot of times, if you can just get right up under it, it'll come loose. So what we'll do is, off camera, we'll work our way around that. We'll get this pan cleaned up, and then we'll get back into installing the new filter. The pan is clean, so this took me about 5 minutes. Bottom side, everything nice, pretty. You want to make sure it is dry. You don't want any water in this pan when you get ready to put it back on. Now, some of you may be looking at this pan and say, daggum, how did he get it that clean? And if you're a subscriber, you probably already know. If you're not, you might want to subscribe so you'll know in the future for these tips and tricks. Oven cleaner. I love using oven cleaner in the yellow can. The inside is not too bad. You can spray degreaser in here and take a rag and wipe the inside out. It's not going to be a problem. But the outside, where you've got built up grease and all that good stuff baked on there, you spray that down with some oven cleaner and let it sit for about 2 to 3 minutes. Go out there, give it a light scrub over with a scrub brush, and it just rinses off and looks brand new. The only warning I've got is on aluminum. It will make it a little bit darker, but it won't hurt anything. So with this cleaned up, we're going to go ahead and get ready to set our gasket on here. And there's our gasket laid out the way it's supposed to go. Just take your time and make sure you get it laid out. And when you are cleaning this pan, if you look in the center, it's raised. That's where this gasket's going to seal, so you want to make sure that area is very clean. Now what I like to do, depending on what style gasket you've got, some of them will come with these little studs you can pop in them to line you up. But I'll take one of our transmission bolts, put it up through the bottom, and then push it through our gasket. And you can just go around. You can go around the whole thing doing that. I usually take about 4 of them and push them as far through as I can, and then the rest of them, just barely push it to where it'll catch the threads that hold your bolt in there. That way you're not fighting it when you're starting the other 4. And then you can go through one at a time and start them. So with all this taken care of, remember, you've got your magnets back in. They go in little square places right here. Not that I know it matters or not, but that's where they go. Gasket's ready to go. We're going to look at setting our filter back up in the transmission. Getting ready to put our new filter in. If you look right here where your filter goes, if I can get out y'all's light, there's actually a seal. We're going to want to remove that. Try not to scar anything up in there. And if you'll make note, the seal is pretty much flush with the transmission. So we're going to pull that out and get ready to put our new one in so we can put our filter in and put this bad boy back together. Can't find my seal puller, and y'all probably will not have a seal puller anyways. So we're going to try to do this with just a pick and see how that works for us. We want to remove the seal, but we want to try to not damage the transmission housing or do anything super crazy. And that's not working for me the way I want it to. Alright, so we're going to go with plan B. I'm going to use a very small screwdriver to tap around it. I'll show y'all on the new seal what I'm doing here. Move this out of the way. Basically, you want to get right up in behind it. Once we get up in behind it, I'm going to pry it out just a little bit and tap it some more. Go over here, kind of do the same thing. It feels pretty loose, so now we'll go back with our pick. And see if we can't pull it out. Yeah. So now we got it kind of tapped. See if I can get y'all a shot. It's actually turned sideways. We'll take and hook it with our pick and pull it out. There it is. Now, like I said, you want to be careful to not damage the aluminum, because that can cause you to have a bad day. And I will show y'all a picture. Try to show y'all. Got that one little bit of nick at the bottom. That's not going to matter because it's not the mating surface. But everything inside there is nice and pretty. You don't want to damage any of that. So be super careful. Let's go look at our seal. When we look at our seal right here, you can see we got right up under the edge, and as soon as we caught that edge, we knocked it inward because we don't want to dig into the aluminum. Just knocked it in and it shrunk it seal enough to where we could twist it, pull it out. Now, here is your new seal. The rubber part right here goes up into the transmission. We will find a socket that is the perfect size to just barely go on the outside of this, and we'll use it to tap it back up in there. And that's that. So a 1/2 inch 20mm socket seems to be just about perfect right there. It's pretty much the same size because it's got a bevel on the edge of the socket. So what we'll do is we'll use it. We'll start that up in there. We'll get it tapped in going. And then we'll flip our socket because you've actually got a lip right there, and that will keep us, allow us to bobbin it on the transmission without putting the seal too deep. So we'll start it with this side, get it started, flip it around, and just tap it the rest of the way up in there. And we'll go ahead and we'll put some fresh transmission fluid on this seal on the inside and outside right here, just so it's already there. See if I can do this without getting in y'all's way too much. Alright, so we can go ahead and push this bad boy up in here by hand. Set this hammer down. Now, you want to make sure you drive this in there as straight as possible. Just take your time. Oh, I guess I might be in y'all's way. Just got to go a little bit more. You hear how that tone changed? Sounds solid when I'm hitting it. She is there. So now we'll take some more transmission fluid, put it on her finger, run it on that seal just to make sure it's nice and lubed up, and we're gonna put some transmission fluid on our filter. All right, so you want to compare your new filter with your old filter, and hopefully this will be a good enough shot for y'all. You want to take this, line it up in it, make sure you're not hitting anything, but once you get where you feel pretty comfortable, just like that, give it a few light taps, and she is in there. So now what we'll do is we'll go around, clean the mating surface of our transmission one more time, just because we've got transmission fluid drips on it, and we're gonna set our pan on. Ready to set our pan. So we're just gonna use our, I can do this with this light being in my way. You just want to ease your transmission pan over to where she needs to be. Let's see what we're hitting. What are we bumping on back there? Solenoids, maybe? Alright, so that's a snug fit. Taking the bolts out of the back of the pan. Just like that. You have to get it just right. Now, you're going to find one of your bolts that's sticking through a good ways and start it. Go to your next one, start it, and then we'll start our two in the back. Once we get them started to hold the pan up, we're just going to go around and just snug them up all by hand with an extension on the socket. Once that's done, you're going to go crisscross pattern and tighten them all to, I believe it's 12 foot-pounds. Got our pan bolted up and torqued to 12 foot-pounds. Remember, you're going to do a crisscross pattern on it. With that done, we're we're going to go ahead and put our shifter linkage back on. It's going to be the two T40 bolts that come down on the top. That will torque down to 18 foot-pounds. Once all that's done, double check everything you've got, make sure everything looks good to you. And then you can see back here on this exhaust pipe, all that transmission fluid. We're going to spray everything down really good with brake cleaner to try and clean as much of that junk off as we can. Otherwise, this truck is going to smoke when we crank it up. Back up top, to put the transmission fluid in, you're going to look back towards your passenger side and you'll have something similar to this. That's going to be your transmission dipstick. We're going to remove it, and my drain pan actually shows quarts on it. So I know we removed roughly 5 quarts of transmission fluid during this job. Approximately. A little bit more, a little bit less. So we're going to go with putting 5 quarts back in it. We'll probably put about 3, crank it up, let it pull some of it back up into the system, and then put the other 2. And then we'll crank it up and we're going to move it in and out of gears to get an accurate reading. We're going to check it with the vehicle running. We put our 3 or 4 quarts in there. We started the truck. We put it in reverse, neutral, drive, second, first, back through the gears once or twice to make sure we got everything engaged. With it in park, we'll pull this out and check it. I don't know if y'all can see it camera. She's right there on the cold mark. So she's just a hair bit low right there. So we'll probably go ahead and put another half quart in there, bring it up, and then we'll run it back to the gears a few more times and check it again. So we're going to run it through the gears, apply your brake, go in reverse, you can hear it pull down, so that's good. Neutral, drive, third, second, first. Now this is going to help make sure everything in the transmission gets engaged, as well let you know if you have any problems with your shifter linkage from messing around with it down there. Reverse, neutral, you just want to give it a few seconds, drive, and just like that, now we're ready to go check our fluid level again. So we'll make sure our dipstick is clean. We'll pull it out and see if we can look at it. So she's right between the cold and the hot mark. Since this engine's been running for a little bit, I'd say it's probably fairly close. We'll let it get up to temperature, and then we'll double check this again and make sure it's between the hot mark whenever the truck's at operating temperature. That's that. We will double check for leaks underneath the truck. You want to make sure you don't have anything dripping down there. But other than that, she's ready for a test drive, and that's all there is to it. So hopefully y'all found this video useful. If you did, hit that like and subscribe. If not, let me know in the comments. Get tips for other people, put them in the comments. See y'all in the next one.